Hey, and we're back with another episode of Before You Buy, the show where we give you some straight-up gameplay and our first impressions of the latest games releasing. Today, we're talking Pokemon Scarlet Violet. So, arguably for the second time this year, Pokemon Go's open world. Yes, after Pokemon Legends Arceus did so much to update the standard Pokemon formula, now a mainline entry is doing a similar thing, but in a different way. Set in the Spain-inspired region of Paldea, the story this time is that your character is the newest student of the prestigious Pokemon Academy. Like with pretty much every other main series Pokemon game, your primary goal is to earn badges by defeating 8 gym leaders spread out in the region using a team of 6 monsters you collect by trapping in Pokeballs. I don't think I really need to go into a lot of detail as to what you do in a Pokemon game at this point. The series has been going for over 20 years and, well, you're doing that stuff. The difference is that instead of being a linear journey, this time you're free to encounter each gym leader in whatever order you want. That's also not all you're doing either. There's 2 other main quests as well. Along with taking on gym leaders in the Victory Road quest, you're also tasked with fighting 5 legendary Titan Pokemon found in various locations around the world with the Path of Legends quest, and you take on this game's version of Team Rocket, Team Star, in the Starfall Street quest. It's a pretty big change to how a Pokemon game is normally structured, but for the most part, if you've played any of these games, none of this should feel really out of place or anything. Now, there is an absolute ton to get into, but we have to address the elephant in the room. You're seeing the footage right now, and yes, that is what this game looks like. At this point, I know Switch users are sick of people complaining about performance, and I get it. Of course, there's going to be some compromises when it comes to the graphics you're looking at of any game on this system. The Switch is more than 5 years old at this point, and the Switch's visuals weren't even cutting edge back in 2017, so of course they're not going to look or run as well as games on next-gen hardware. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, they look rough. In open world areas, especially cities, the frame rate tanks. Textures are often blurry, NPCs and any moving background objects are low frame rate and look pretty bad, and the game can just look straight up ugly at times. And that is not getting into the various visual glitches that we have experienced. Like, shadows especially seem to have a hard time in the open world. Normally they look pretty rough, but we've experienced a lot of instances where shadows would appear and disappear randomly, which looks strange. I mean, it's not something we've never seen before in a game, but this is the latest mainline Pokemon game. Now, it's also forgivable, but what really hurts the game is the slowdown. Unless you're indoors, this game really struggles to hit 30 FPS, and there are just constant frame drops and stuttering. Certain towns in the game go into full-on slow motion. It just does not feel good to play when the frame rate is this inconsistent. All the graphics and performance issues are a real downer because the open world is fantastic conceptually. The region of Paldea is one of the best realized worlds in a Pokemon game yet. It's big, varied, and a ton of fun to explore. Just the fact that you can now complete your various quests in any order is a huge change for the Pokemon series, even if in practice you're probably going to be following the same general route as, you normally do. All the Pokemon, trainers, and team members you take on have locked experience levels, and just like in any Pokemon game before this one, defeating gym leaders makes it so higher level Pokemon are more likely to listen to you in battle, so going for the toughest gym leader first isn't exactly easy, but it's possible, which is positive in my book because some people are completely nuts and decide to do things that way. Sometimes it's just fun. Also, sometimes it's fun to see how bad the worst guy's gonna whoop you, so you know what you're aiming for. That being said, it does actually take quite a while to get to the open world. There's about a 2-hour stretch of the game where you have to play at the start before the world actually opens up and lets you freely explore it. There's a fair amount of tutorializing here, but a lot of this stuff is found in the Pokemon School, which is actually pretty easy to skip out on entirely. You'd think the whole school thing would be a central feature of the game, and there'd be like Persona school-like stuff you'd have to do, but honestly, I don't hate the fact that the classes are completely optional because they don't really add that much. While I overall really like the world here, one thing that may bug people is the lack of interiors. There are obviously some interiors like the school and some shops, but otherwise don't expect a lot of like caves or unique dungeons like in previous Pokemon games. Stuff like the abandoned department store in Pokemon Sun and Moon were great, so it's kind of a shame that there's not more like that in Scarlet and Violet. Another new feature where you can start up a picnic also feels pretty pointless. It's cute, and you can interact with your Pokemon, and the sandwich-making minigame is bizarrely in-depth if that's something that you find fun, but the whole thing doesn't really add that much, and I don't love it. In multiplayer, it might feel more significant, but in single player, I never really felt the need to do a lot of picnicking. If there's one new feature that does stand out, it's auto battle. The game lets you throw out any Pokemon you got in your first slot to explore with you in the open world. They'll pick up any items nearby and fight any enemies around automatically, which will automatically get them experience. And that's a great feature. It makes grinding a snap, but switching between Pokemon in the top slot is a little clunky. It's also kind of annoying because it's just one of a couple things that Pokemon Legends Arceus already solved. So I don't know if the teams working on these games weren't talking to each other or were running very different schedules or just couldn't be in sync. But for some reason, a lot of the improvements introduced in that game just aren't here in Scarlet and Violet. And it seems to not really be for a good reason. It's especially unusual because the auto battle here is an essential mechanic for the Starfall Street quests. Whenever you attack one of the 5 Team Star bases, for some reason you can only fight them using the top 3 Pokemon in your team with auto battle. If your Pokemon aren't the right type for the job, you're pretty much screwed. So these missions are either a cakewalk where you're brainlessly throwing out your monsters and not doing a whole lot else, or a really painful slog. Speaking of quests, one of the most interesting in theory isn't actually particularly exciting. Like the Path of Legends has you hunting down 5 legendary Titan Pokemon, which sounds interesting. Like the word Titan is in there. That certainly implies some sort of heft or danger, you know? But there isn't really a lot of strategy to finding them. You just go to a location, fight a big Pokemon there, then it runs away and you fight it again with the help of your buddy. Now, to be fair, completing the Path of Legends gets you the best rewards. You learn new abilities for the legendary Pokemon Koraidon or Miraidon, depending on your version. You actually get these guys right at the start of the game, but at first they're pretty limited in what they can do. You can't really use them in battle. All you can do is ride them, which is nice for getting around, but they do sometimes like to get stuck in the environment. I did not say this game was devoid of glitches, did I? No, I did not. In fact, there are plenty. As you unlock new abilities, you'll be able to travel through water or glide, and it makes getting around a lot more fun, even if performance issues make moving around the open world not as fun as it could be or should be. Trainer battles are similar to previous years, but instead of having to defeat their gym, you're tasked with completing a gym test, which is usually some kind of mini-game. These are generally pretty unoffensive and slight, which honestly describes a lot of the content in the game. Most of what you're doing is traveling from place to place, grinding up your Pokemon and catching everything you see. The towns, though detailed, don't really have a lot going on. There are a lot of shops, mostly selling different kinds of food, but you're probably not going to be spending a lot of time at these places. And I know it's kind of a nitpick, but the eating animation really stands out a lot. Like, it looks bad. It's weird because most of the other animations in this game look really, really good, but look at this. This does not work. Now, I've gotten quite a ways in, and I haven't mentioned one of the central mechanics of this game. Remember Gigantamax forms from Sword and Shield? Well, this is the Terraform. Instead of becoming giants, Pokemon turn into crystals with these silly things in their heads, which sounds like a downgrade, but I don't mind it. What makes it actually kind of interesting is that depending on your Pokemon, the Terra type might actually be different from the normal type. So an electric type Pokemon can turn into like a ground type, which can add a really unexpected twist to the fight. The transformations are pretty quick too. They don't slow anything down. I'm not going to say it's the best new battle gimmick, but it works pretty good, and it doesn't make the game worse. In fact, it's fun, and I think it averages out to be a positive, so I can't ding it too bad. In terms of sound, it's a Pokemon game. Even after all the work they've done to modernize the series in a few key ways, they're still missing some basic stuff like voice acting and cutscenes, which is especially weird this time, where there's fully animated sequences with people's mouths moving and nothing comes out. Most Pokemon cries still sound like they're coming out of a Game Boy speaker, and that's common in the series. But also common in the series is the music is still great. A lot of the incidental pieces are fantastic this year, but one gripe I do have is the main city theme, which is kind of short and repetitive, which is weird and grates on the nerves faster than you would expect. So overall, my opinion on Pokemon Scarlet and Violet's kind of mixed. Like, I really want to like this game, and when everything comes together correctly, it can be a lot of fun exploring the open world, but the performance issues really drag the game down. Like, Sonic Frontiers has some performance issues and some weird stuff, for instance, but if you remember, I didn't make the technical aspect of it a real big reason why that game wasn't perfect in my before you buy. This one one, I mean, this isn't even a game oriented around speed. This is a game oriented around walking around and doing turn-based battling, and the performance issues just drag it down. It leads me to wonder if we really needed 2 major Pokemon games this year, or couldn't they maybe have just delayed this to 2023 and iron out all the issues? Maybe they still will. Like, it would be wonderful if they patched this thing and it worked better. Obviously, we'll see if that happens. It has in the past. It's not like it hasn't. And if you can get past the performance problems, which, like I said, is a pretty big thing to get past, because there's a lot of them, there is a lot to like here. Like, the open world is appropriately massive. There's tons of things to see and do. The soundtrack is mostly really, really good. The character designs are on point as per usual. Like, it's a solid Pokemon game with one huge drawback. Like, it runs like crap. I can't help but like it despite all of these problems, but that doesn't mean the problems aren't serious. They are serious. With all that said, it's tough for me to recommend Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Like, maybe if they patch out the glitches and get the game to a more stable frame rate, it's a no-brainer, but they haven't done that yet, like I said. I don't know if Game Freak is capable of doing that. We've never seen a Pokemon game come out with issues like this. Like, Arceus doesn't run like this. So it's hard to say exactly how Game Freak is going to address all this stuff. Maybe in the hypothetical future where the game works perfectly and the glitches are a thing of the past, or even just smoothly, maybe not perfectly. I mean, a lot of games don't run perfectly. But with that stuff happening, I could happily recommend this game, because the content, great. As it is currently, I really can't. I'm going to say wait and see. I really do hope the criticism from not only myself, but a lot of other people gets through to Game Freak and they do at least attempt to fix these issues, because this isn't like realistic lighting, ray tracing, and all that. It's a cartoony looking Pokemon game. So, wait on it. Unless you have a very high tolerance for a game that doesn't run well. That's what I think. What do you think? Leave us a comment. Let us know. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week. The best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription. So click subscribe. Don't forget to enable notifications. And as always, I thank you very much for watching this video. My name's Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter @FalconTheHero. We'll see you next time right here on gameranx. Right here.